I welcome all of you once again uh, to this webinar on immunity. Today's our guest speaker is Dr. Apar. And before I introduce him and pass the button to him to take us through this session, let me quickly introduce myself and what I do. So I am Chinmay Kale. I'm based out of Bangalore, and I run a social venture called Anvay Wellness. And we are into, so our social venture is into cancer care, where our philosophy is to help people adopt integrative care methods focused on yoga, naturopathy, counseling, and basically everything which is complementary to conventional care. And our logic is that if people adopt, have an integrative approach to care, including all the methods that we have to our disposal, I think the results can be much, much better. And our objective and our goal and vision in this whole venture is to, one, create more awareness about all these methods, which have been kind of on the sides and people try on and off, but which need more attention, and also help in adoption. So awareness and adoption are our core mantras for this. We are also running online care programs for preventive care for general population, where we can actually help them modify their lifestyles to avoid and reduce their risks based on lifestyle, meditation, and diet considerations, where risk of diseases like cancer and other chronic diseases can be significantly reduced. And we are also running online programs for cancer patients and survivors, where we help them mitigate the side effects of treatment, improve overall quality of life, and reduce the cancer risk of recurrence. So these are our current programs, and these are again completely based on yoga, meditation, diet, nutrition, and counseling methods, and which we find extremely useful and beneficial. So please spread the word in your families and friends and help us make a social impact in this space. So now coming back to our sessions, today's session is focused on immunity. And before that, let me quickly introduce our guest speaker. So we have Dr. Apar Saoji. He's the academic deputy director of S. Vyasa, which is the premier institute in Bangalore for yoga, naturopathy, Ayurveda, all other allied Ayush sciences. And he himself is a very accomplished doctor with multiple gold medals and peer-reviewed webinars, and an expert in yoga and naturopathy. He's a doctorate in, I think, psychophysiology of yogic breath retention. So very accomplished person, a well-read and thorough person. So I think we are very glad to have you, Dr. Apar, today. Thank you for spending time with all of us. I'll pass the session to you. I'm very happy that you have joined us, and I hope the users and attendees today will find this session very, very useful. So I am stopping screen sharing. You can share your presentation.
All right. Yeah, thank you, Chinmay, for this warm welcome, and thank you for inviting me to talk about it. But it is only now that we're talking of immunity. So I'll just share my screen in a minute, and we will be discussing a little more details. We have been talking of this particular word ever since Corona has crept in, immunity, which is known to a lot of us as the defense system, which is always there protecting all of us. I specifically chose this particular picture to depict immunity, which is there on the cover page. It essentially means that immunity is not a single entity. It is rather made of multiple blocks. And during this presentation, what I would like to do is talk about what are these building blocks of immunity and how utilizing those blocks we can enhance the defense systems inside each one of us. So what exactly is immunity? It is basically the ability of the body to resist pathogens. Now, pathogens is a medical term used for anything that can cause a disease. Okay, there are bacteria, there are viruses, fungi, parasites, a lot of them. They can be even toxins, a lot of them, which can cause health problems to each one of us. Now, for today's entire discussion, I would like you just imagine whenever I'm talking about immunity, I'm also talking of the defense system of a country. Okay, and I want you to imagine your own body as the country that is to be protected, and the pathogens or the bacteria or viruses that we're talking about as probably invaders who are trying to cause a problem in the country. Okay, and therefore basically immune system works like the army or the defense system of any country. Okay, and their basic goal is to keep checking if there is an invader. Okay, so whether or not there is any disruption, maintaining peace is one of the most important objectives of the way immune system works. So you need to keep checking if there is some invader somewhere which is creating a problem. Okay, of course, you will have to also look at if there is an entry of an enemy, whether an enemy is growing in the country or the body. Okay, so whenever I'm talking of pathogen, we are talking of the enemy for human body, which can cause a disease, a health problem. Okay, and also what we also understand is that human body, there are a lot of uh, pathogens which are already present, which work in tandem with the human system. Okay, they are called essentially our abdomen. The large intestines have a lot of bacteria which are called as the normal intestinal flora, which are good for us. Okay, but given an opportunity, if your immune system is low, then they can cause an infection. Imagine, you know, your police forces in your town are not very active in their surveillance. What would happen? There are certain elements in the society which can cause trouble if they get a chance. But if they don't get a chance, they will stay happily and mingle with the entire society comfortably. And that's exactly how it is. So what we need to understand is any bacteria, any virus, any pathogen for that matter, any enemy entity, when they enter the body, they cannot just on their own start creating a health problem. Okay, they need to have an opportunity to create a health problem in the body, and to prevent that is the major objective of the immune system. So what happens whenever there is a bacteria or a virus or an enemy that enters the body? There is something called as a lag phase. So it is basically the entry of the organism in the system, okay, and it starts growing. It lodges itself in an area where it can grow, and then it starts growing over there. Okay, once it grows to a certain extent, only then, you know, it can start creating some kind of health problems, cough, cold, or whatever. So your immune system not just works at this level where there is a health problem which is seen, but it also works in the peacetime. It is always active. Okay, so this is one important idea that we need to understand before we get in details of the immune system. It is not only when the bacteria is entering the body, it is not only when the virus is entering the body, but the immune system has to work through and through all the time. Okay, and that's exactly how even in a country the defense system would work. You continuously train the defense personnel, you keep them ready with all the arsenal, all the equipments to ensure that there can be a event where there can be a problem. And for that problem, we need to be ready. That's exactly how immune system has to work. So there are two kinds of immunity that we talk about. One is called as the innate immunity and another one is called as the acquired immunity. Now, innate immunity is non-specific one and the acquired one is a specific one. What do I mean by that? Any organism, anything entering in the body, the innate immunity is the first one to respond. Okay, whether you know that organism or not, whether you know this particular disease causing agent or not, your innate immunity is the first to go basically isolate that organism, try to kill it. Okay, but it is non-specific. Okay, but what is acquired one? Once you are exposed to the organism, your body knows that this is the ID card of the particular organism which has come. So if there is a problem with the passport, this does not belong, this is not the citizen of this country, my body, then your acquired immune system is going to take over and start mounting a response. So now, just to give you an example of what innate immunity means, it is the natural capacity to resist an invasion by any pathogen. Now imagine the territories of your country. If they are like the picture on the left, it is very difficult for any enemy to actually climb and then enter inside and then create a problem. But if there is a highway which is there for available for the entry, then it is simple for any organism to come inside and mount a problem. And therefore, the innate immunity is more like a stiff area that you need to create with yourself. So there are different components of innate immunity. One of the most important one, all of us have skin as the largest organ of human system, which resists, prevents anything to enter inside. Okay, and it also produces a lot of chemicals which can kill the pathogens. Now there are the respiratory tract produces a lot of mucus. There is sneezing reflex, there is coughing reflex. So the moment something enters in, you don't want that to come inside, you cough and push it out. So that is exactly the respiratory system works. In saliva, there are chemicals. In the digestive system, there are chemicals that can kill a lot of pathogens. Okay, so these are the naturally occurring resistances that we have by birth, by the nature of human system. It is all there. There are also specific immune cells. Okay, I'm sure you have heard about what is called as the white blood cells, and there are different types of white blood cells. So certain types of white blood cells which are called as macrophages. Now macro is the term used for large and phages are something that eats. Okay, so macrophages are the ones that basically engulf any pathogenic organism, any invading organism, and try and neutralize it. So there are several layers of the innate immunity. Already by virtue of the way our body is created, the mucosal layers, the chemicals that we synthesize, the tears, we have certain chemicals, they are called as enzymes. There is acid in our stomach which can digest a lot of these bacteria. So all of these act like a barrier in terms of the ability of the organism to infect the human being. Okay, so if you want to get inside, now imagine, once again switching between immune system and the way your country is protected. Imagine, you're talking of the border of India in terms of Siachen. Now that's a very, very difficult place. You cannot really, a normal individual cannot simply go there and enter Indian territory just like that. So that's exactly a natural defense that is available to the country by virtue of its geography. Similarly, by virtue of the way our body is made, we have certain components that can provide us immunity against a lot of organisms. Now, one of the most important cells, which is non-specific, anything invading human body, there is what is called as natural killer cells which are present. their job is to go and kill. Okay, so these are the cells which will identify something that is not our own, and they will start mounting an attack and killing them. Okay, they are large cells. They produce a lot of chemicals to kill the invading organisms. Then there are phagocytes. I told you about phagocytes. Phagocytes essentially engulf and neutralize the organisms that come in. And there is neutrophils. The largest population of the white blood cells are neutrophils. They have certain chemicals in their cells which can actually kill a lot of these organisms that will be invading. So basically, if a terrorist is entering in, your body's defense cells know how to kill that particular invading organism or a terrorist. Now, moving on from there to what is called as an acquired immunity. Now, the word acquired means we gain over a period. It is not by birth that we have this kind of immune response, but we have it over a period of time. Now, this is against specific antigens. If I have to tell you in simple terms what ants mean, they are basically the passports. Okay, so antigens are specific proteins that are present on the organ that are basically used as an identity card, whether they are of human body or not, can be identified by the antigens. And therefore, if there is something that is not our own, that is identified as a foreign antigen, there is that mount against it. And because it is an acquired one, because it is a very specific one, it basically is the most potent form of immune mechanism. Okay, but please remember one thing: without innate immunity, you cannot have acquired immunity, and they have to work in tandem. They cannot work as a standalone entity. Now, there are two ways in which acquired immunity happens. One is more like infantry. Infantry is the type of soldiers who are on foot, or they need to themselves go to the territory of the enemy and kill the enemy. And they are basically used by what is called as the T lymphocytes, okay, the T cells. I will talk about them a little more. And there is something called as humoral immunity, which is more like missiles or artillery. You can be inside your territory, you can be at one place, but you can synthesize chemicals that can kill the organism that is invading. Okay, so there are these two different ways in which the acquired immunity works. There are different cells which are involved in the process. The T cells have different kinds of T cells again. There is one particular subset of T cells which is called as the helper T cells, which basically coordinate between the innate immunity and the acquired immunity cell lines. It's exactly like, you have a coordination between Air Force, the paramilitary forces, the Army, Navy, and other things. So you require somebody to coordinate all that, because if they are not working in coordination, it can lead to a collapse. And that is what is done by the helper T cells. Then there are cytotoxic T cells, which basically the word cyto means cell, and toxic means they produce toxins attached to this organism and kill them by producing certain chemicals. Okay, and then there are something called as memory T cells. They are basically like the storehouse of the intelligence. Okay, what do? They basically remember that one particular type of organism, it had entered in my body, and this is the way I had neutralized it. Okay, so I start mounting that kind of attack once again by virtue of the memory T cells. I'm sure you have heard of chickenpox. Okay, chickenpox is a type of infection. Once you get it, typically the entire lifetime you won't get it again. Not that you will not be exposed to those viruses again, but then you will develop the memory of how do you combat the chickenpox virus in case it enters your body again. Okay, and that is by virtue of the memory T cells. Now they are called as T cells because they are trained in a particular part of body called as thymus. I'm not complicating it for you. The other cells are called as the B cells, which are trained in the bone marrow. Okay, all these cells are produced in bone marrow, but their training happens in different places. Now B cells basically get converted into something called as plasma cells, and they produce a lot of cytokines. They produce a lot of chemicals. They're called as immunoglobulins. Okay, and these are basically the missiles that are used by the immune system. Okay, so there is a range of different kinds of missiles that are used. There is IgA, immunoglobulin A, IgE, IgG. These are specific type of chemicals that are utilized to neutralize specific kind of invading organisms. Okay, so these are what is called as the plasma cells. The B cells also have a subset called as memory B cells, which is basically again a trigger of what kind of organism requires what kind of immunoglobulins is what is being told by the memory B cells, and the effector B cells basically mediate the whole activity. So these are the cells which are involved with the acquired immunity. So all these cells are basically part of the white blood cells that all of us have in millions and trillions in our body. Now, combining the innate immunity and the acquired immunity, we get what is called as an immune response. Okay, what is an immune response? Immune response is the effort of the body to fight a pathogen through a combination of mechanisms. Okay, the goal of immune response is to identify, isolate, and eliminate the enemy. Okay, the invading organisms, whether it is a virus or a bacteria, it is very important that you identify. Now the threat could be from outside or it could be from inside. Just to give you an example, because Anvay works with cancer, uh, cancer cells are produced in our body all the time. Okay, when we are exposed to sunlight, uh, you know, all of us know that there are ultraviolet radiations that can produce cancer cells. So we are exposed to a lot of chemicals that also produces cancer cells. But they are identified. They are homegrown terrorists which are identified and killed by the immune cells. Similarly, there can be things coming from outside. So you first identify them. You either isolate them or kill them. Okay. So that is the basic goal of immune response. And the mechanism, one of the mechanisms is what is called as inflammation. Inflammation is a combination of processes through which the white blood cells reach the area where there is an invasion problem and try and neutralize it. But what we need to understand is you have soldiers, they have ammunition, they have a lot of warfare, okay? But it is a double-edged sword. If you have too much of immune response, that is also bad for you. If there is lowered immune response, that is also bad for you. It has to be an optimal one, okay? If there is too much inflammation, it can lead to a lot of health problem, okay? And it is known today that inflammation is the base of all health problems, whether it is cancer, whether it is neurodegenerative disorders, whether it is simple problems like obesity, high blood pressure, or diabetes. So all of them are caused by excessive inflammation. So please understand, something that was protecting you when in excess becomes bad, okay? And when it is lower, that is also a problem. And therefore what we have to understand is there has to be a balance. Okay, and that's how beautifully nature has created our whole system, where there has to be a balance. All right. And this is again, I'm somebody who work in yoga, and I understand that yoga is defined as balance in Bhagavad Gita. It is said that samatvam yoga uchyate. So your body is meant to be in that state of balance. If there is a problem, then it can, if there is an imbalance, it can create a problem. What kind of problems we'll be talking shortly. Before that, I'll just give you an idea of what exactly happens when an organism or a foreign entity enters the body. Okay. So the first cells I told you will be the macrophages, the cells that will go and engulf these bacteria or viruses. They will basically get attached and they will attract the T cells. Once the macrophages are activated, they send chemical messages. Okay, they secrete certain chemicals which will attract the T cells, and the T cells will then it is a chain of commands. It is basically radio signals getting passed from one cell to another to another. Okay, so from T cells it goes to the helper T cells, and helper T cells, I told you, act as the coordinators of the entire immune response. Okay, so either helper T cells will tell that the natural killer cells should go and attack, or it will tell that the B cells should basically get converted into the memory cells or the effector T cells and produce antibodies, which can essentially be the killing mechanism for the uh, organism or the terrorist that was entering the body. Okay, so there are various ways in which the immune system is going to work. Now, understand one thing. Any one of this, if it is not working in coordination with another, it will lead to collapse. Okay, and therefore immune system is built on training. Okay, it takes years of training for the immune responses to happen. The problem with corona today is that the virus is new. We don't really know how to work with it, and that is why everybody is looking at what exactly needs to be done. Okay, so uh, because of that, the training is going to be one of the key components of the immune response. Now, I'm going to talk about different aspects of our lifestyle that can influence immune system. Okay, and one of the key components that we keep talking about is the stress. Now, there is something called as a branch of medicine which is called as the psychoneuroimmunology. What do I mean by that? The psychological state of an individual basically changes the way my nervous system works, and my nervous system in turn will regulate my immune response. Okay, so whenever we are under stress, your body identifies that as a threat. Okay, and in situation of a threat, what would be the response of an army? Basically, they will be hyper excited. Okay, so either there will be an increased response in the initial acute phase of stress. Okay, and in chronic, if imagine this hyperactivated state remains for a long time, and today we're talking of problems with chronic stress alone. Okay, what would happen? Your body remains in that state of excitation all the time. It is in the situation of threat all the time, and the immune system slowly starts getting depressed because you have exhausted it. Okay, so this is explained by what is called as the hypothalamo pituitary adrenal axis. There is a part in the brain which is called as the hypothalamus, which regulates the sleep-wake cycle. It regulates the chemicals. It regulates the metabolism that happens in the body. It regulates the hunger and satiety. So a lot of activities. It is very closely related to our emotions as well. So whenever we are stressed, what happens? It produces certain chemicals. They are called as CRH. Okay. and then it will basically stimulate the pituitary gland, which is just adjacent to the hypothalamus, and pituitary in turn will produce a chemical called as ACTH, adrenocorticotropic hormone, which will go and work on the two small little glands which are present above your kidney. They're called as the adrenal glands, and they will produce what is called as cortisol. Now, cortisol is a hormone that is really required otherwise for a lot of activities. But again, when there is an imbalance, when there is an excess of cortisol, it is known to reduce the immune response. And therefore, it is observed through a lot of scientific studies that people undergoing chronic stress are more prone to a suppressed immune response. There was an experiment that was done on rats. There were 3 sets of rats, and one set, all 3 of them were exposed to a particular kind of virus that will produce an infection. One set of rats were kept happy. The second set of rats were undergoing a physical stress. Okay, they were asked to do a lot of physical labor. And the third kind of rats were undergoing psychological stress. What was seen was the same exposure to all 3 sets of rats. The rats which had physical or psychological stress were the ones who developed the infection. And that is why we know how intricately stress is connected to lowering of the immune response. It so happens that there is a major event in the family, death of somebody or something like that, that can actually be a trigger for a lot of health problems. People get infections very easily. They catch cold very easily during that time. They also have a lot of, it is also observed that cancer is triggered when people undergo major life stress. And therefore, what we understand is the stress and immunity are very intricately connected. Now, how do we relate that with today's situation? Today's situation, due to Corona, all of us are under lockdown. We are enclosed in our spaces. There is a huge amount of uncertainty. People are losing jobs. There is a lot of negative environment that is there around us. You open a news channel, all you hear is negative news. Okay? And obviously we are going to be stressed. And we are talking of enhancing immunity. That is not how it is going to be. And therefore, if you want to have good immunity, even during this time, we need to engage ourselves in reducing our stress levels. And that can easily be done by yoga, meditation, by interacting with your family. Now, this is a beautiful opportunity that Corona has given to all of us to be with our family. I don't think anyone had this kind of an opportunity to stay with their own people for such a long time. So you can either be stressed about the situation, or you make a way for learning how to live with things and thereby probably modify the way your immune responses are. Now, what would happen to the immune response if you are stressed? It can either lead to a hyperactivation of the immune response like seen in allergies. Okay. Now, Bangalore, we have a lot of gardens. There are a lot of pollens, and it is known to be the capital of asthma. Okay. Now, people with asthma and otherwise, people say when I'm exposed to dust, I get allergy. When I'm exposed to pollens, I get allergy. Now, what we need to understand is everybody in the vicinity is also exposed to that kind of an environment. Why is it that one individual or a group of individuals who are susceptible only get allergies? Because their immune system is hyperactive. They are overreacting. Okay. And therefore, if there is a more than required response, it can lead to allergies. There can be a suppressed response. It can reduce the immune function, which can lead to immunodeficiency. making you susceptible for infections or even cancer. Okay, like I said, cancer cells are produced in the body during the routine procedure. Okay, routine activity of the cells also cancer cells are produced, but they are identified and neutralized. But if there is a suppressed immune response, there may be a problem with identification of the cancer cells or neutralization of it. And that can lead to what is proliferation of those cells. There can also be what is called as an altered response. Now, you must have heard about, sometimes these policemen or, sometimes even in military, people get so stressed out, they just take their gun and start shooting people around them. Okay. They cannot identify what is not or who is an enemy, who is not an enemy. Okay. Your own body cells are not supposed to be your enemy. Okay. But in case I am not able to identify who is my own and who is not my own, which can happen because of a lot of things along with stress, that can lead to autoimmunity. Now, autoimmunity is my own body cells are considered to be foreign invaders, and you start mounting a attack towards those. If it is against the joints, it can be leading to a problem like rheumatoid arthritis. It can be a problem, I mean, if your skin is identified as the foreign organism, then it is psoriasis. It can be connective tissue, which probably is with systemic lupus erythematosus. So a lot of health problems are there with autoimmunity. So what are the factors that are responsible for good immune response? One of the most important things is training. Okay. Now, please understand that army has to fight a battle once in only a few, decades, but they need to continuously train themselves. Okay. And their training involves identifying. How do you identify who is a threat, who is not? Okay. And that is through exposure to antigens. What do I mean by exposure to antigens? A lot of us keep getting these viral flus, but we are not too worried about it, right? Our body knows how to take care of it. So exposure to antigens is actively done by infections, or sometimes they are passively done using vaccines. But please understand that the training has to happen for your immune system to function well. Okay. The ammunition, the kind of firepower that is given to the immune system, please understand, is from the foods that you consume. Okay. And therefore, even if there is training, but you are malnourished or overnourished, both things are problem. Okay. You have to have right kind of ammunition. You cannot win a gunfight with a knife. Okay. And you cannot have a response to a nuclear weapon with maybe a infantry. And therefore the right kind of foods have to be taken at right time. Also, this is very, very important when I'm talking about it. It has happened with the emergence of corona and the infection spreading. People have started talking about how eating haldi is going to help immunity, how eating garlic is going to help immunity, how, in fact, I have those things on my slides next. But then please understand, it is not that I eat haldi today and afternoon I will have good immunity. No, it is not like that. The immune responses are part of a rigorous training. Okay. And therefore, the lifestyle, overall lifestyle has to be conducive for a good immune response. Okay. The exposure has to happen. The ammunition has to be for a sustained period of time. It cannot be for a small little time. And there has to be also, very, very importantly, the time for recuperation. There has to be rest, relaxation, stress management and sleep. It is not that I eat turmeric, a lot of turmeric, but I don't sleep well. Will that work? No, it doesn't work that way. If your immune system has to work in coordination with each other, I told you that there are multiple factors that need to be coordinated well. They also need good rest. Imagine if a soldier is unable to sleep for 48 hours or 72 hours, what would happen? Then the exhaustion will set in. Similarly, if your body's immune responses are not getting enough sleep, then there will be a problem. And therefore, if you want to enhance your immune response, we will have to ensure that it is the overall lifestyle modification that we do and not, take bits and pieces. Take Chamanprash and your immune system will be fine. No, it's not like that. It has to be a overall full-fledged uh, thing together. Okay. Now, what are the foods that support optimal immune response? Okay. If you look at the picture, you will have an idea of what kind of foods would support the optimal immune response. What we understand is the whole food. Okay. Not processed one. It is a natural one. It has a lot of active ingredients in it. Imagine when you cook things for a long time, you process things for a long time, you're naturally going to kill all the active ingredients in the food that will help in the immune response. Okay. And therefore, the food has to be whole and natural and not processed one. Uh, Also, there is a concept of what is called as rainbow food. Rainbow food meaning you should have all 7 colors. Okay, each color of food have micronutrients like beta carotenes are there, flavonoids are there. These are micronutrients that are really required for building a good immune response. Okay, so therefore consume whole food, natural food. A lot of talk happens whenever we start talking of food with proteins. Please understand proteins is not the magic here. Okay. All the chemicals that are produced by the immune system are proteins, but you need to have adequate but not excessive protein. Okay. It is not that you start consuming protein powder and your immune system will just blow. It is not going to be that way. Okay. Understanding that there is a huge coordination required between multiple facets of immunity is very important here. You cannot have only ammunition without the manpower to handle it. Okay. So if you have excess protein, that is not going to help. You have to have good protein, good amount of protein, which is about 1 gram per kilogram of your body weight per day. Okay. Or even less than that, about 50% of it. So if you are 60 kilograms of body weight, you should have about 30 to 60 grams of proteins per day. Okay. Low fat, it is known that if you have excess cholesterol, if you have a low fat diet is going to be very important. Low refined sugar. Refined sugar is again another thing that is known to be associated with low grade inflammation, meaning your body is always actively involved. It is always in a state of arousal, and therefore minimizing the refined sugar is going to help you to have a good immune response over a period of time. Also very important, water drinking. Why water drinking? Because water acts as a media for flushing out all the toxins that are produced in the system. Okay. And if water drinking is not adequate, your body is not going to flush out the toxins. And again, your immune system will start identifying those toxins as enemy and start getting exhausted over a period of time. And therefore, these are a few tips about food which will support the optimal immune response. Vitamins and immune response. A lot has been spoken about vitamin C, vitamin D, and immune system, but it should not be looking like that. You cannot just go on popping pills of vitamins and get good immunity. You should have vitamins from natural sources as much as possible. Okay. Why am I talking of that? Is because when you take from in the form of pills, the vitamins, the bioavailability, meaning the amount of vitamin that you consume and the amount of it that gets absorbed in your system is very, very low. But when you start getting it from foods, when you start getting vitamin D from sunlight exposure, the activity level of those vitamins is going to be very high. Okay. And if you see all the vitamins, whether it is A, B, C, D, E, all of them play a major role in optimal immune response. Okay. Vitamin A is associated with improved natural killer cell activity and preventing cellular degeneration, cellular aging, etc. Vitamin B complex, multiple vitamins there. Spleen is a major organ that plays a lot of role in immune response. So it is known to enhance spleen function. Also the antibodies, the immunoglobulins that I spoke about, the chemicals that mediate the immunity. So all of that is mediated by vitamin B complex. Vitamin C is known to be an antiviral, antibacterial. Also, you should be getting that from citrus fruits, a lot of vegetables and all of that. Vitamin D is known to be an antiviral, clears the bacteria. Vitamin D, there has been a lot of work with coronavirus again. What is known is people who have adequate amount of vitamin D in their system, even if they're exposed to the virus cannot actually become very viable because their what is called as the mucosal cells in the respiratory passage, they will resist the growth of the virus. Okay. And therefore, also it is known that another problem with corona is that if the coronavirus is active in the lungs, it produces a lot of chemicals called as cytokines. Okay, the immune system tries killing coronavirus by putting in a lot of chemicals, but these chemicals are toxic, and these toxic chemicals can lead to a lot of damage to your lung tissue as well. So what is known is coronavirus can lead to what is called as a cytokine storm. And people who have adequate amount of vitamin D in their system, there is prevention of cytokine storm. Meaning even if you are exposed to coronavirus, the damage that can happen because of corona will be much lower in people who have adequate vitamin D. Okay. But the logic is then, okay, I will take vitamin D pills, or I will just take up, vitamin D sachets and make my vitamin D levels fine. But that is not how it works. Again, that vitamin D from natural sources like sunlight exposure is going to help a lot. Okay. Also, vitamin E prevents cellular aging. There is what is called as reticuloendothelial system activity, which is again playing its role in the immune response. Please understand that I'm not going in the complicated part of the immune response here. So what is known is this particular area of the immune response is enhanced by vitamin E. Now, all these vitamins are very abundantly available in good food that can be looked like that, which is whole, natural, has a lot of colors, a lot of pigments. So you will be able to receive all the vitamins that are really required and have a good immune response, making sure that even if there is an exposure, your body is ready to take that kind of response. There are a lot of questions about whether spices and herbs will help in immunity. Yes, they will. Okay. But again, it is not what is called as the supreme remedy. You take spices and everything will go. It is not like that. You start taking spices in excessive amounts and whether that it will help or not, no, it will not. So why do spices help? They have a lot of active ingredients. They're called as the micronutrients and functional foods. Okay. And they are anti-inflammatory. They reduce the amount of inflammation that can happen. They can also reduce the free radicals that are produced in the body during fighting. So what are the different kinds of spices and herbs that are found to be useful? Green tea especially is found to be very useful. So even if you want to consume tea, please have green tea. Now the reason is it has a lot of active ingredients which will help the immune response. The other useful herbs, and each one of them we have been hearing about it. Turmeric has an active substance called as curcumin, which is antibacterial, antiviral, anti-cancerous, a lot of things. But again, please remember one thing, it is not overnight. You start consuming good amount of turmeric today and you will have immunity tomorrow. It doesn't work that way. It has to be the whole thing together. Okay. Um, Garlic, ginger, pepper are other herbs that are known to enhance the immune system. Now, if you look at garlic, ginger, pepper, all these are irritants and they also lead to removal of the mucus. Okay. And whenever there is removal of the mucus, in Ayurveda it is called kapha. Okay. When kapha is removed, kapha or the mucosal layer is the one where these bacteria and viruses are trapped. And if they are removed, what will happen is the growth of these bacteria and viruses will not happen in our body. And therefore, it is not after you get an infection that you start taking all this. It is before you get exposed to an infectious agent. If you consume these, they are going to help you to prevent the growth of those organisms in the body. So the Ayush Ministry has come up with guidelines about what you can do and what you should not be doing. They have suggested that you should only drink warm water throughout the day, should not be drinking cold water because once you heat the water, the bacteria and viruses are going to be killed. You can use spices like haldi, jeera, dhania, lasun. All of them are going to be useful as expectorants. They will reduce the kapha dosha in the body and make sure that the mucus layers are very strong. Of course, I'll talk a little more of exercise, yoga and meditation in a while. The other recommendation was to take Chamanprash, which has a lot of active ingredients. The main ingredient of Chamanprash is amla. So that will help in building immunity because it has a lot of vitamins again. You can have herbal tea or decoction, kada made of a lot of these components which has micronutrients that will enhance the immune response. Also, you can have half teaspoon of turmeric mixed with hot milk once or twice a day. That will also prevent the mucosal gathering. It will remove the mucus from the system and make sure that there is dislodgement of these viruses which you are exposed to. Another thing that has been spoken very widely these days is about a yogic kriya called as Jalaneti. Jalaneti and steam inhalation are two measures that are very effective in reducing, even if you are exposed to any virus, what would happen, they will typically stay in the nose and the throat. So if you have warm water, salt water gargling, you are essentially killing a large number of these viruses. Also, the steam inhalation, the nasal irrigation that happens in Jalaneti is going to wash out these organisms from the system, which will be very useful. I think I'm just going to the last part of what I wanted to convey today, the exercise in the immune system. Exercise plays a very important role in regulation, integration of the different mechanisms of the immune system and adaptation to a good immune response. Okay. So what is known is moderate amount of exercise is known to enhance immune response. It also leads to production of new white blood cells, but at the same time, excessive exercise can actually push the immune system down. Okay, and therefore you need to have moderate amount of exercise to enhance your immune system. And ideally, the World Health Organization recommends 30 to 45 minutes of physical activity every single day, okay, for at least 5 days a week, okay. But I would go one step further and say 45 minutes to 1 hour of exercise every single day should not only help your immune system but also help you to maintain good health, okay. What would happen when we do exercise or asanas? Asana part of yoga is there is production of certain chemicals in the brain which are called as endorphins. Endorphins are the happy hormones. They will elevate your mood and also reduce the stress levels that we have. What is also known, we are talking so much about the vaccine against coronavirus and all of that. What is known is if you are exercising, the vaccine response is much better. Okay, and therefore even if you take vaccine, it is very important that we do these lifestyle modifications incorporating the yoga practices or exercises in your day-to-day life. There has to be reduction, there is also reduction in inflammation, and the research says that exercise yoga is seen to be useful not only in young or elderly people, but also patients with cancer and HIV. Even in them, the immune responses are enhanced if you are exercising. So therefore, it is very, very important that we put in the adequate amount of exercise every single day. So what should you do as general measures to improve your immune response? Have good food, having all the components that I've spoken, the rainbow food, natural food, something that is holistic in approach. Have sun bath every single day. And sunbathing, what we mean is exposing your body to sunlight, direct sunlight for at least 15 to 20 minutes per day, which is going to be useful for production of vitamin D in the body, which will be helpful in enhancing immunity. Exercise and or yoga for at least 30 to 45 minutes per day. But if you can do 45 minutes to 1 hour, very good. Adequate sleep is going to be a very, very important component of what you should be doing. Rest and relaxation. Very, very important that we are physically resting and mentally relaxed, and therefore adapting components like meditation, component like being with family and being happy and cheerful, having purpose of life will help in having a better immune response, and therefore inculcate a positive mental attitude to have a better immune response. So with that, I would just sum up in a couple of statements. One, immune response does not get evolved overnight. It is not dependent on one entity. It is rather on multiple interlinked components. Okay, and therefore you will have to enhance your lifestyle if you want to enhance your immunity. Okay, it's exactly like the training of the defense forces have to happen over a period of time, and there has to be a good coordination between different uh, areas of these defense forces. Even if there is one missing link, the whole system would collapse. And therefore, for immunity, develop a good lifestyle, which would include yoga, which would include exercise, which would include good amount of rest and relaxation, which would include, uh, positive mental attitude, and that along with the herbs that you want to consume, along with the food that you want to consume, is going to help to build the immune response. And once we have that good immunity, uh, it doesn't ensure that you will not have an infection at all. Okay, and therefore using common sense, making sure that you are taking care is definitely very important. It is not that I start doing yoga so I will go out in the open without mask. That is not going to help. Please understand that your body is learning to deal with a new enemy. That would time. Take time, take off, and make sure that you are safe and your family is safe. With that, I think for now, and if there are any questions, we will open the session for that. Thank you so much.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Apar. And I think this was a very insightful session and a good amount of insights that you had shared. I'll just take from some of the questions that were posted during registration. So I think, Dr. Apar, one question that we saw was, are there any levels of immunity that exist? Like, are there any stages of immunity, like low, high?
Okay, we need to understand. Yeah, yeah, yeah. There is nothing like, I mean, there, so far we are unable to measure if, I mean, medical science does not have any specific means of saying, your immune cells are so much, so your immune is working at this level. It is not so. All the ways in which you can evaluate immunity today is more of indirect ways of doing it. Okay.
Okay.
So you can look at the WBCs, you can look at the ratio of the WBCs within themselves, but that does not actually tell your immune system is working at an optimal level. Okay. But what we are talking here, and what I tried emphasizing during the presentation as well, was that it is multifactorial. Okay. And you cannot just look at one entity of the immune system and say that, if these cells are high, then your immune response is good. That doesn't work. So therefore, and the second part of it is that although we generally talk enhancing immunity and lowered immunity and all of that, there are no ways of assessing today. Okay. And therefore what we need to do is train. It's exactly like, how much of the ammunitions or artillery is good enough for a country, or which kind of, do you think now we have Rafale and the other jets which are there, Indian Air Force, is it good enough? We don't really know. There is no way of saying that, this enough or not. There is some advantage of having those things. The number of soldiers may vary. It will be less sometimes, it may be more sometimes, but you need to be prepared is the whole concept that we need to understand. Okay.
Right. Okay.
You had nuclear explosions and you have developed nuclear arsenals. You may never use them in your lifetime.
Correct.
Okay. All you need to be doing is be prepared. And that is what I'm talking about when I'm talking of immunity. We need to be prepared. Okay. There is no way of saying I have good immunity or bad immunity. Okay.
Okay.
So how do I prepare myself? By following what we spoke about, a
Right.
good lifestyle, healthy lifestyle, good food, you have enough exposure, you are exposing yourself to sunlight, you have the balanced food, you are stress free. So all of that is basically the training that you're giving to your immune system.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah.
So once you have that, the chances, you're less likely to
Right.
be attacked by somebody.
Correct. 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 Right. So other question I think which is pertinent to these times, I think you have been talking about corona vaccine since you addressed some of it during your talk also. So I think there is some, I think the entire world is pushing for a vaccine and I think it is kind of being the ultimate solution. What is your view on it? Do you think that just having a vaccine is the end all of all problems?
No, no, definitely no. Uh, say even for the vaccine to arrive, it will, as I see it, as I have studied so far, we are looking at at least 6 months to 1 year of horizon.
Okay.
So it is going to take its own sweet time, because
Mm-hmm.
what we need to understand is the coronavirus, why there is awareness is that it is, so we need to experiment. There is the whole process of approving it, the FDA approval and all of that.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I'm not going in the technical details of it, and we don't really know the long-term effectiveness, complicated all of that. What I want you to be aware of is called as immunity. Okay, and which I probably did
Yes, yes.
not touch upon when I was talking about. Now,
Okay.
herd immunity is when, say, a large number of people in society get infected. Okay,
Okay. Okay.
and when they moving in the society, the virus is essentially there everywhere in society. Okay, in the environment. So you are always exposed to it, and once you are exposed to it in a routine way, it's like a flu virus.
Mm.
Really, unless there is a change of environment, some change there in the environment, you are not too worried. And that is exactly what is happening with the asymptomatic cases of corona. If we are looking at the numbers with corona,
Okay.
uh, about 80% of them do not show any symptoms,
Right.
or about very mild symptoms. They have things like cough, cold, maybe mild fever for 2-3 days and then done.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It is only problem because you're talking of the scale at which it is happening.
Happening. Correct. Correct. Mm.
Okay. So say about 50-60% of a population is infected with, naturally people are going to have antibodies,
Mm-hmm.
but then there are also limitations of that approach as well. Sweden, for that matter, went for this approach of herd immunity, and then they realized that the mortality rates are very high. Okay, so it has to happen gradually. It cannot be a you just open the society and allow everybody to be infected. That is not how it is going to work. Okay, so with corona specifically, it is going to be a pretty complex way in which we have to tackle. But at this point, I think the most sensible approach is to stay at home, take all the preventive measures,
Right.
make sure that you're not exposed to the virus as long as it is possible, for two reasons. The scale at which people are getting infected, the healthcare facilities are not available. This is exactly what happened in Italy.
Correct.
By the time it reached the peak, the infection, the entire healthcare were exhausted. The doctors were drained out, they were infected, they were dying, and that is not the state where Italy with its population and the healthcare facilities could probably afford. India with our healthcare facilities probably cannot afford to do that. And therefore it is imperative that we do not do anything senseless.
Right.
follow the precautionary measures, and over a period of time, of course, vaccine would come, herd immunity would happen. So in Dhabi, in Mumbai, already there is herd immunity developed and people are recovering. So, in packets, it will happen. But we cannot afford to do that at once in the entire country.
Right. Right. Good. Yeah. Thank you for answering that question. Just couple of more questions we had. I'll just take them. I'm taking them from the registration question. So one is, what is the relation between gut microbes and immunity? Because there's a lot of gut health and so many books, have come out on that. And you also talked about, presence of a flora that we call favorable one in our intestines. So is that, how do we look at it?
Yes. Yeah. 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 Normally, whenever we talk of bacteria or virus, we think that it is an immune, but it is not like that. There are several bacteria which are good and which help us to be optimal functioning. Just to give you an example, probably the milk curdling bacteria, it's called the lactobacillus.
Correct.
Okay, and it is a probiotic. Okay, so without that, will never come third. Okay, so it is a good bacteria. It is required. Similarly, there are several bacteria which are present in our intestines, on our skin, in whole of our body. Okay, and these bacteria which are present in the gut, in the large intestine specifically, they have a symbiotic relationship with our body, meaning they coexist happily, healthily with us.
Correct.
Okay, as long as you are not immunosuppressed, as long as you don't get HIV, these are not going to infect you and create problems. Okay. So just to give you an example, probably in society you have people who are very powerful. Okay.
Yep.
And these people are actually good, but given a chance, they can also become problematic.
Right.
Okay. As long as the policing, the society is good around it, they are not going to create a problem. Okay. That's exactly how gut microbiomes work. And what is known for last about 30, 40 years of research now is gut, the bacteria that are present in the large intestines, they produce several chemicals that are really required for human existence. Okay. And funnily, this has been known to the traditional wisdom. In yoga, we always spoke of how your abdomen has to be cleansed. Ayurveda always spoke of how your gut has to be clean. Okay. Naturopathy, the primary treatment modality was cleaning of the gut. So much of emphasis, irrespective of what health problem you had, we always spoke of gut cleaning. Always told us that there is something in the abdomen which is useful. But today's research, and I'm talking of the topmost scientific publications, journals like Nature, Science, and all of them are trying to publish the chemicals that are produced in the gut, how they are useful for human being. It is also known when we take antibiotics. Okay, antibiotics are basically chemicals which kill bacteria. Okay, and they are non-specific. They will kill the bacteria which is causing a problem, but they will also kill the bacteria which are good for us. Okay, so what is known is people who consume excessive antibiotics, they have risk of higher health problems in their lifespan, and therefore what we need to understand is we are part of the nature. Okay, and nature tells everything is a step ladder pattern. There is a symbiosis in what happens in nature. Similarly, if we disrespect that symbiosis within us, we will be creating problem for us. Okay, and therefore we should have a good amount of probiotics. Okay, curd could be a very good thing to have. But also natural foods, organic foods are going to give us a lot of these gut microbiomes. The second thing is, if your gut is clean regularly, if there is no constipation, these bacteria can live very happily, healthily, and they can produce chemicals that are really required for us. And therefore, having a lot of raw foods will help you for achieving that.
Okay, so that's a great insight, sir. So okay, finally, I just want one. I think there was one. Typically, this we understand these methods like that we are laying stress on lifestyle modifications, diet, nutrition, yoga in particular. So all these are some. I mean, we treat them as alternative, methods, and many times sidelined. Maybe you could throw some light on what work is happening to create scientific evidence around this. I'm just taking this question because, for the audience who is here today, I just also want them to know that this is not on the sidelines anymore. And there is a good amount of work on the scientific side. Because,
definitely not. Yes. I mean, I have been working in a organization actively involved with yoga research for last 40 years plus now. There is huge amount of evidence that tells us that, all these lifestyle measures. Regarding diet, there is no question. I think probably the most researched item on earth is food. Okay. And therefore you keep having these statements and counter statements about contradictory statements about something is good and bad and vice versa.
Right,
okay.
Right.
But what is known is, if you have natural food, you're going to be very, very healthy. With yoga, specifically with cancer, we have worked a lot. Our institute, we have worked with Institute of Oncology. Even in patients with cancer where the immune system is suppressed, yoga is going to help in building the immune response. The natural killer cell activity is going to be better with visualizations. Okay. So what is done is you ask the patient to just lie down, close their eyes, and ask them to visualize. They are seeing the natural killer cell. They are seeing it fighting with the cancer cell. There are huge number of NK cells surrounding the cancer cell and killing it. So that visualization. So a huge amount of evidence that is getting generated. It is not turned anymore. In fact, just to probably to it, MD Anderson Cancer Research Center, which is the largest cancer in the world, have yoga, they have acupuncture, they have nutrition, they have a full-fledged preventive medicine, and working closely with them for a yoga for breast cancer patients. Now they are getting in yoga and prostate cancer. They are getting in. So a lot of these already worked on across the world.
I'm sorry, there was a big announcement going on right outside this room. I think it's better now. Okay, thank you for addressing. So are there any more questions from participants?
I just have one question. I wanted to understand when you talk about 15 to 20 minutes of having vitamin D, now I have heard vitamin D from natural sunlight can be consumed if that is the early morning rays. Is that true, or is it like it can be anytime?
Basically, the ultraviolet radiations that are there in sunlight, they react with the cells on the skin and then lead to activation of the vitamin D. So the whole process can happen throughout the day, and ideally not early morning. In fact, what is known with the latest evidence is early morning may not really be much helpful. You require bright sunlight to actually have vitamin D synthesis happening. Okay, so any time of the day should be okay. It should not be much of a problem.
Thank you. That answers my question.
I have one question.
Yes,
Those
please.
who are having allergy with the sunlight,
Mm-hmm.
the skin is sensitive, what
Mhm.
should they do for getting vitamin D?
That probably is a very specific question. Okay, but again, people who have sensitivity for sunlight are very less in number. Okay, so what I would suggest is for such people, we will have to look at the other aspects of it and probably give vitamin D supplements. But then the most ideal source is definitely going to be the sunlight.
Okay, there's one question on chat which is saying
Yeah,
what
probiotic.
probiotic is suggested for vegans?
Yeah, all the time this particular question keeps coming all the time. Well, one thing is, I mean, couple of things there would be your gut flora. If it is active, if it is healthy, it will produce its own chemicals. So there is no problem with that. And the way you can do that and support the gut flora is one, I said, prevent constipation. Okay, so have a lot of roughage in your food, have a lot of salads, sprouts, and a good amount of fruits. All of that is going to help. The second thing would be to eat organic. Because right now what we understand is the chemicals that are spread over the foods that we consume, they are going to reduce the potency, and they are also going to kill these bacteria which are there in the gut. And therefore what is imperative is that we make sure that we are eating what is organic. So a couple of things there would be one, eating yeah, I think there is another question from you, Chinmay.
I think one of the participants is using my ID for login because he was having some trouble. So I guess.
Okay. Yeah, so I will answer that. So regarding probiotic, avoid constipation by having a lot of roughage. Two, try and eat, switch to as natural, as holistic food that you consume. The probiotics will get built automatically. The gut microbiome will get built automatically. I think I'll take up the next question. Is it safe to eat raw vegetables and fruits now during the pandemic? Yes, it is, as long as you're cleaning it properly. So just clean it. There should not be a problem. In fact, the data from across the world tells us that the infection is not getting spread from food items.
Okay, right.
Okay.
So how about curd? You think curd is good?
Curd is a good thing, yeah. Okay. But again, please understand, whenever I say something is good, it has to be moderated. It cannot be in excessive quantity or too little.
Yeah, so okay. So guys, moderation is a basic thumb rule applies to everything.
In fact, very beautifully it has been put up in Bhagavad Gita as yukta ahara viharasya yukta cheshtasya karmasu yukta swapna avabodhasya yogo bhavati dukkha. So everything has to be yukta. Ahara, your diet. Vihara, the way you are living. Yukta swapna avabodhasya. Your sleep also has to be moderate. What we know now with the scientific literature is if you sleep less than say 6-7 hours, you are bound to get health problems. If you sleep more than 8 hours, you are bound to get health problems. Okay. So everything has to be in moderation. Not just that, even vichara. Your thought process also has to be a balanced one. So very, very beautifully explained there that everything has to be a balance.
I think that
your immune system has to be in balance. Too active an immune system is a problem. to lower an immune system is a problem.
I think that was a great shloka you just narrated. I think fantastically summarized here. So I'm going to, I think, conclude this meeting. I think we have extended it by about half an hour. So just sharing some of our contact details where all of you can reach out to us. And this recording of this session is going to be available on a YouTube channel. The link is here. And there are some other social media channels where we are present. You can also participate there. We have an Integrative Cancer Care Facebook group also where you can participate. As I said, quickly, I'll thank Dr. Apar for his time here today and giving us great insights into immunity, helping us understand what are the core structure of immunity and what actions we can simply take to strengthen immunity over a period of time. Summarizing what he just said, I think food is important, exercise, yoga and meditation. We talked a lot about stress and how stress actually affects our immune response. And I think one fundamental rule, I think if there's a takeaway is doing all this, just one element and taking it like a medication. So food, start eating healthy tomorrow and something magic is going to happen. No, it's not going to happen. I think he has stressed enough on keeping it as a wholesome exercise. I mean, exercise, food, nutrition, sleep, rest. I think all these are fundamental elements and our immunity is going to improve over a period of time only when we address all of these together. And moderation is the key. So whatever you do, anything excess or below. So we have to achieve an optimal response, an optimal cycle across all these elements. I hope this session was useful for all of you. And the recording of this session will be available for everybody on our YouTube channel. So thank you, sir. And yeah, all you people can reach out to us. And last but not the least, do share about our webinars and our sessions and about us with your friends and family. We're more than happy to reach out to more and more people. So thank you, Dr. Apar, for taking time out and addressing all these questions. Thank you, everybody, for attending and hoping this was useful for you. So do track us for future webinars and sessions like these.